Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Probably you've all heard about the recent Supreme Court decision in India that have, as a result of the 20 or 25-year legal contest about who will have possession and ownership of the Bangalore Temple. Yeah, of course, the Bangalore Temple, the temple president there, he decided that he wanted to follow the Ritvik concept, Ritvik Vada, of where devotees could take post-humous initiation from Srila Prabhupada. And of course, this has been the main source of contention between Iskcon and them, because Iskcon does not want to give their properties away to those who do not follow what they consider to be correct. So the result of this court case has renewed the ongoing, for 30 years, the ongoing controversy over who has the proper initiation method, Iskcon or the Ritviks. So I've seen a number of videos, everybody taking their side, this side of Iskcon or the side of the Ritviks. But nobody that I've seen is speaking about proper Vaishnava Siddhanta, which is actually where we go to when there's some controversy, right? We have three methods of understanding the truth, which is Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So when there's some confusion, we go to Shastra. So today I want to speak about the proper Gaudiya Siddhanta. Of course, I'm not going to be able to settle this dispute for those who are so heavily dug in, but perhaps there are some devotees who are confused about it, who would give this a listen, and it would help them to understand the proper course of action for their lives. I want to first begin by reading a few quotes that will keep us on track. These are from two from Srila Prabhupada and one from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote, "As a chanter of the Kirtan of Hari, it is his constant function to dispel all misconceptions by the preaching of the truth in a most unambiguous form without the influence of person, time, or place. That form has to be adopted which is least likely to be misunderstood." Then from Srila Prabhupada, in his Srimad Bhagavatam 4:28-48, "The main business of human society is to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all times, to become his devotees, to worship the Supreme Lord, and to bow down before him. The Acharya, the authorized representative of the Supreme Lord, establishes these principles. But when he disappears, things once again become distorted. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master." And then one quote from a lecture Prabhupada gave in Mayapur on the 1st of March, 1977. "Those who are opposing the Krishna consciousness movement, we have to fight them to our best capacity. Never mind if we are defeated. That is also service. Krishna sees the service. Defeated or victorious depend on Krishna, but fighting must be there." Now, For those of you who have read my book, Divine or Demonic Spiritual Movements and the Enemies Within, you understand that my thesis is that Srila Prabhupada's Iskcon represented a grave threat to the status quo, to the powers that be, and therefore, the way they do with many things, they infiltrated Iskcon for the purpose of misdirecting it or taking it in a different direction, essentially destroying it from within. So therefore, I look at all of these controversies in Iskcon through that lens. But it's helpful to consider that when we understand that our Hare Krishna movement is practically the only thing that can defeat these demonic powers of the world today. Just like when Krishna appeared, Mother Bhumi, she said, I can't take it. The demigods were powerless. These demons were so powerful. So Krishna said, I'll come personally and take care of this problem. So Krishna is come in this age as a yoga avatar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is bestowing love of God freely for everyone. So that mission of Lord Chaitanya has been spread around the world by Srila Prabhupada, our Acharya, my spiritual master. And the demons, they recognize this as a grave threat. Those who have read Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's article titled Putana understand that the demons are very watchful. They're ever on the lookout for the appearance of the Absolute for the purpose of destroying him before he has time to develop. And taking that to be the case, they saw Iskcon was a threat and they infiltrated it very early on in our movement. So early that when the devotees from the West started going to India, the rumors were spreading that these devotees are CIA agents. And perhaps some of them were, but not for the purpose of spying on India, but for the purpose of keeping the Hare Krishna movement in check so that it did not spoil their plans for material domination. So I'm speaking, that's my way of saying that I'm speaking from this perspective, and personally, I think there's a lot of validity to it. And so I'm looking at it in that regard. And in that regard, we may find even that both the Ritvik Vada, or the Ritvik idea, and the methods of Iskcon in their initiation procedures are both incorrect. So we're going to take a look at that briefly. I've gone over this in great detail, 2 lectures that I have on my YouTube channel about the same thing that I'm going to go into today, simply because I want to keep this to a reasonable amount of time. Okay, so with that preface, let's continue. What we're going to do is begin with the May 28th conversation in which a number of GBC, they approached Srila Prabhupada to discuss with him how initiation should be conducted at that time when he is no longer with us. Then after that, another important conversation is July 7th, which was the prelude to the letter written by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, the July 9th letter listing the 11 Ritvik officiating acharyas who would initiate on Srila Prabhupada's behalf while he continued to be ill. I'm going to read a bit from the May 28th conversation. Satsvarup, then our next question concerns initiations in the future, particularly at that time when you are no longer with us. We want to know how first and second initiation would be conducted. Prabhupada, yes, I shall recommend some of you. After this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating acharyas. Tamal Krishna, is that called Ritvik Acharya? Srila Prabhupada, Ritvik, yes. Satsvarup, then what is the relationship of that person who gives the initiation and the Prabhupada interrupts? He's guru. He's guru. Satsvarup. But he does it on your behalf. Prabhupada, yes, that is formality because in my presence, one should not become guru. Now, at this point, it's very clear that there's some confusion in this dialogue because Satsvarup began by asking, we want to know how first and second initiation should be conducted when you are no longer with us. But here Srila Prabhupada is saying, in my presence, one should not become guru. Prabhupada already said, he's guru. But he does it on your behalf. Yes, because of my presence, he should not become guru. So on my behalf, on my order, be actual guru, but on my order, Srila Prabhupada says. So Satsvarup said, so they may be considered your disciples. And Prabhupada, yes, they are disciples. But why consider who? Again, Prabhupada's question here indicates that there's some confusion in this conversation. Satsvarupa is trying to get clear on whose disciples these are going to be because he's thinking in terms of when you are no longer with us. But Srila Prabhupada's already preempted that. He's saying he's guru, right? In my presence, one should not become guru. So Tamal Krishna then understands his confusion. He interrupts and he says, no, he's asking that these Ritvik acharyas, they're officiating, giving Diksha. The people who are they're giving Diksha to, whose disciples are they? Prabhupada replies, they are his disciple. Tamal Krishna, they are his disciple. Prabhupada, who is initiating? He is grand disciple. Now, there's some confusion here. If they're initiating on behalf of Srila Prabhupada as Ritvik acharyas, they are going to be his disciples. But Prabhupada is saying, no, they're his disciple, grand disciple, meaning that, and because one should not become guru in Srila Prabhupada's presence, Prabhupada's now talking about after he is no longer with us. Now, many devotees point to this conversation and they say, when you are no longer with us, Prabhupada says, yes, I shall recommend some of you as officiating acharyas. But then Prabhupada also says, but they're grand disciples. They're his disciples. So devotees point to this as the first part of the conversation to say that, see, this is Prabhupada recommending when he's no longer with us, that he's setting up these selected devotees to be officiating acharyas. There's a lot of confusion here, so it's not clear. Now, further on in the conversation, let me continue. Who is initiating? He is grand disciple. Satsvarup, yes. Tamal, that's clear. Satsvarup, then we have a question concerning, Prabhupada interrupts him. He says, when I order, you become guru. He becomes regular guru. That's all. Disciple of my disciple. That's it. So that's very clear. When he is no longer with us, disciple of my disciple, meaning that his disciples will initiate others. Now, this is what has been clearly said in Srila Prabhupada's purports again and again. There's many references that can be pulled out where Prabhupada's explaining that when one's guru passes away, his disciples, when they are qualified, they may then accept disciples. Very simple. And Prabhupada's repeating this here. And he says, on my order. Now, this is another controversial point because many devotees will say that, when did Prabhupada give the order? Now, some devotees will say, well, Prabhupada had a standing order. He wanted all of his disciples to become guru. And there's many references to that point. Well, we can look at, in Srila Prabhupada's conversations, one person one time asked Prabhupada, when did you become guru? And Prabhupada replied, when my spiritual master ordered. And the question came back, When did he order? And Prabhupada replied, that is not for you to know. In other words, that's between him and his guru. It's not for somebody else to consider, to judge right or wrong. Prabhupada heard the order from his spiritual master and took it and carried on his mission. So that's the May 28th. Now the next conversation that comes up is July 7th. This conversation is not often referred to, but it's very important for understanding the July 9th letter. This is conversation with Srila Prabhupada and several disciples, Tamal Krishna principally, maybe some others are there, but Tamal Krishna is speaking with Prabhupada, trying to get clear on this because he's at this time Srila Prabhupada's secretary. He wants to send out a letter to alert the society of Prabhupada's saying that they can give initiation. So he's clarifying all of this here. So, Tamal Krishna, we are receiving a number of letters now, and these are people who want to get initiated. So up till now, since you're becoming ill, we have asked them to wait. Prabhupada replied, the local men, the senior sannyasis, they can do that. Tamal Krishna, that's what we are doing. The local GBC sannyasis have been counting on their beads, and they were writing to your divine grace, and you were giving the spiritual name. So that process should be resumed, or should we? I mean, one thing is that it is said that the spiritual master takes on the sins of the disciple. He cleanses the disciple. So we don't want to burden you with that when your health is not good. That's why we have been asking everybody to wait. So I just want to know now if we should continue to wait for some more time. So the very reasonable question. Now, so the process was, Prabhupada was, of course, very busy. The movement was growing immensely. So the devotees would, the leaders, when there were devotees who were ready for initiation in their temples, they would write to Srila Prabhupada and say that, I'm recommending these devotees for initiation. Prabhupada would then write a letter back saying, I've accepted them. These are their names. And he would, beginning, I think, in 1972, he was rather than sending beads back and forth in the mail all over the world, he was having his senior men chant on the beads. So this was my initiation also. We received a letter from Srila Prabhupada giving us our names. Rupanuga, who was our local GBC, he chanted on my beads. And the temple president did the fire sacrifice. So that process had been going on, and can be considered Ritvik initiation in one sense, that whoever's doing the sacrifice, they are officiating acharya, doing it on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. So that process had been going on. So now Prabhupada is saying they had stopped that because, again, Tamal says, we haven't given you these names because you're ill. We don't want to burden you. So Prabhupada says, no, the local men, meaning the senior sannyasis, they can do that. Tamal Krishna, so they should continue? And Prabhupada interrupts, you give me a list of the sannyasis and I will mark who will do this. So Prabhupada's going to then give a list. Prabhupada's going to indicate the sannyasis who can do this on his behalf. Prabhupada, you can do, Kirtananda can do, and our Satsvarup can do. So these three you can give. So Tamal says, so supposing somebody in America, they can write to Kirtananda or Satsvarup. Prabhupada says, whoever is nearby. Jayatirtha can give. Bhagavan can give. Also Harikesh. So these men were all leaders in different parts of the world. So Prabhupada's picking them out from different parts of the world, Europe, America, and so on. And Prabhupada says, 5 or 6 men, you divide whoever is nearest. So this makes it easy. The situation should be continued. The president would write the letter of recommendation, send it to that officiating acharya, whoever is nearest, that person would act on Prabhupada's behalf, accept them as disciples, provide a name, chant on the beads perhaps, and then everything would continue as it had been going on. Tamal Krishna repeats, who is nearest? So persons won't have to write to your divine grace. They could write directly to that person. Prabhupada, yes. Tamal. Actually, they are initiating the person on your divine grace's behalf. Those persons who are initiated are still your, and Prabhupada interrupts him. The second initiation we shall think over. Tamal Krishna, okay, this is for first initiation. Then later, Tamal Krishna says, these men, Prabhupada says, they can do second initiation too. He changes his mind. These men, they can do second initiation, Tamal says. So there's no need for devotees to write to you for first or second initiation. They can write to the man who's nearest to them, but all these persons are still your disciples, and anyone who gives initiation is doing so on your behalf. Yes. But Tamal Krishna says, so if someone gives initiation like Harike, she should send that person's name to us here, and I'll enter it into the book of your disciples. Okay. Is there somebody else in India who you want to do this? Prabhupada, India, I am here. And also, Jayapataka. Now, this is very important. India, Prabhupada is there. So he's still willing to act in that capacity, but not with all of the numbers of letters that are coming. So a few from India, okay, Prabhupada will take care of that, and also Jayapataka. So then, Tamal Krishna gives a list of names: Kirtananda, Satsvarup, Jayatirtha, Bhagavan, Harikesh, Jayapataka, Tamal Krishna. Prabhupada, yes, that's nice. Now you distribute. And then Prabhupada says, what about Rameshwara? And Hridayananda. Oh, yes, South America. So Prabhupada accepts that, and he comes up with a list of 11. Prabhupada, so without waiting for me, whoever you consider right, that will depend on your discretion. So you decide, you act on my behalf, you accept these devotees as my disciples, and you do what's necessary for their initiation. Okay, that's the July 7th room conversation. Now we're going to look at the July 9th letter. Very important thing to understand. Tamal Krishna is the secretary for Srila Prabhupada at this time, and it was Tamal Krishna who wrote this letter, not Srila Prabhupada. So these are Tamal Krishna's words that are written there. And the letter is to all GBC and temple presidents, dear Maharajas and Prabhus, please accept my obeisances at your feet. Recently, when all the GBC members were with His Divine Grace in Vrindavan, Prabhupada indicated that soon he would appoint some of his senior men to act as Ritvik representative of the Acharya for the purpose of performing initiations both first and second. That's May 28th, right? His Divine Grace has so far given a list of 11 disciples who will act in this capacity, and he lists them all. That's from July 7th. In the past, temple presidents have written to Srila Prabhupada recommending a devotee's initiation. Now that Srila Prabhupada has named these representatives, temple presidents may henceforward recommend or send the recommendations for first and second initiation to whoever of these 11 representatives are nearest their temple. After considering the recommendation, these representatives may accept the devotee as an initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada by giving the spiritual name, or in the case of second initiation, by chanting on the Gayatri thread, just as Srila Prabhupada has done. The newly initiated devotees are disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. the above 11 senior devotees are acting as his representatives. After the temple president receives the letter, these representatives giving their spiritual name or thread, he can perform the fire sacrifice in the temple as was being done before. The name of the newly initiated disciple should be sent by the representative who has accepted him or her to Srila Prabhupada to be included in his Divine Graces Initiated Disciples book. Hoping this finds you well. Signed, Tamal Krishna Goswami. Now, Tamal Krishna, of course, gave this letter to Srila Prabhupada to look at, and Srila Prabhupada signed off on it as approved. So, many of those of the Ritvik persuasion, they point to this letter and say that here it is said that henceforward, this word henceforward is very important. Now that Srila Prabhupada has named these representatives, temple presidents may henceforward send any recommendation for first and second initiation to these representatives near their temples to be initiated as disciples of his divine grace. Now, what those of Ritvik persuasion have done is also taken this word henceforward and say that this word means from now on into the future, and that Srila Prabhupada never stopped it. Therefore, it's going to continue forever, right? And that in the future, everyone will be initiated as disciples of Srila Prabhupada. However, Srila Prabhupada did stop it, and I don't remember the exact date. I think it was either October or early November that Srila Prabhupada canceled all the initiations at that point. So from that point on, there were no more Ritvik initiations. That was stopped. Furthermore, there is nothing in this letter to indicate that these 11 named devotees would become spiritual masters in Iskcon after Srila Prabhupada's departure. Absolutely nothing here mentions anything about that whatsoever. Nonetheless, what happened was, let me be blunt, a coup d'etat. That these 11 devotees, they basically did a takeover of Iskcon, where they decided at the next GBC meeting in Mayapur in 1978 that they were going to be the sole successors of Srila Prabhupada, the only ones who could initiate, that the disciples they initiated would be their disciples, grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and they would also become the acharyas of Iskcon, each initiating in a particular zone or the area of the world where they were preaching. This became known as the zonal acharyas. There is nothing in Srila Prabhupada's instructions to indicate that this was to be the case, that they should do this. There was never anything verbal or written to indicate this. As I mentioned, so it was a hostile takeover. Now, this happened to the great dismay of many, many devotees. Of course, we were all extremely distraught at the time, Srila Prabhupada leaving us. And there was a lot of question about, okay, how will Iskcon go forward? Many of the devotees, they did not see this July 9th letter. It was sent mainly to the temple presidents. The devotees that did not see it, they were left wondering, well, what's going to happen in the future? For myself, at that time, I was not so bewildered because Prabhupada had given the instructions in his books. He said, after the spiritual master departs, when the disciple is qualified, he may then accept disciples. So what's the mystery? What's even the need of going to Srila Prabhupada and asking, after your departure, how should initiations be conducted? But again, for whatever reasons, and it's, I can't speculate on the motives for everybody there, but again, my opinion is that there are some elements in there who decided to take this initiative for the purpose of destroying Iskcon from within. And that was extremely effective because at this point in time, after Prabhupada's departure and after these 11 decided that they were going to be the only gurus, which is contrary to Vaishnava Siddhanta, many thousands, well, not many thousands. There was, Prabhupada had some 5,000 or so disciples. So at least several thousand at that point had left. They weren't going to have it. So, so this was the first. Oh yeah, the other point was most of these 11, they were also GBC men. And so the GBC would vote by, take their vote by majority rule. And so they were able to basically have the GBC body declare that there were going to be these zonal acharyas, and that's how everything would go. And even if some of the other GBC were opposed to that, they were not sufficient numbers to be able to stop it. Maybe you've all heard some of this history. It comes out in bits and pieces depending on who you talk to. So let's then look at how things went in the mid-80s. So after 78, the 11 zonals, they were carrying on like this. Many God brothers were opposed. There was all kinds of letters that were flying all over. Of course, we had no internet at that time, no fax even. And so devotees would write their opinions, their feelings about what should or should not be done. They would copy those and then send them around the world. And so I had, I did. I scanned a lot of these. I have a big stack at one point of letters of devotees who were in a great anxiety, very unhappy with how the movement was being led or misled by the GBC. So it was in the early 80s then that we began to see the leaders of our movement were falling down. Typically that means either into illicit sex life or intoxication. And they were, so adding to this, unhappiness about what the GBC were doing, those who were leaders, sannyasis or even gurus, they were falling into illicit activities. And of course, this is devastating for their disciples, any disciples who had placed faith in them. And that was adding to the problems. Then in 1983, Jayadvaita Swami, the BBT published Jayadvaita Swami's books, Back to Godhead magazine, with more than 5,000 changes from Srila Prabhupada's original edition in 1972. This created a lot more angst of how the disciple, who's not qualified to correct his spiritual master, could change his books after his departure when he is no longer present to approve or disapprove of that action. That created a lot of distress. So there's a lot of dismay, disappointment, unhappiness with all of, and despite the, another important point. At that period in time, there was a second layer of management after the GBC. There was the temple presidents, who were all disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They were peers of the GBC. Even despite their objections, they could not convince the GBC to do anything. And nothing happened really until 50 senior men got together. They formed what was called the 50-man committee. And they said, okay, we're putting our foot down. We're not going to go along with this. This is incorrect. And so there was a meeting that was called in New Vrindavan in 1985, where all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada were invited to. They were invited to participate, to come and listen, and to demand some changes from the GBC in that regard. Let me look. Sasha Prabhu sent a question in the chat. Oh yeah, so he's mentioning here about Guru Kripa's comments about what happened in 1978. I have that letter also. Guru Kripa spoke several times, but I do have one copy, and I think it's a recording, a transcript of a recording. But Guru Kripa was also explaining basically the same thing that I'm explaining now. And again, many godbrothers, they knew these 11, and they knew that they were not qualified to take disciples. They also knew that they were especially not qualified to present themselves as acharyas. Well, acharya is not some regular guru. Acharya is those persons who are outstanding in understanding the Siddhanta and who from time to time will guide the understanding of the Gaudiyas. So in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, he gives us the parampara that was received from him, or let's say received from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta about that. And it is a succession of acharyas. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. So at the New Vrindavan meeting was that the GBC co-opted the opposition. That is, they decided, okay, you're against us having only us 11. Okay, whoever wants to become guru can become guru. So in this way, they, like I said, they co-opted the opposition. This means they diffused the problem. They did not deal with the problem. They dealt with the symptoms, which were the opposition that they were receiving from the godbrothers. So then there was a letter in 1978 that came from Pradyumna. Now, Pradyumna was Srila Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor, and he was very, very knowledgeable about Vaishnava Siddhanta, a very learned devotee, and he sent a letter to Satsvarup. I'll read some of this. He said, "Dear Satsvarup Maharaj, I'm writing you this letter with great anxiety in my heart after days and days and long nights of thoughtful and careful consideration. At that time of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, it was most clearly understood by all of us present that Srila Prabhupada made no successor. Everyone admitted that fact and clearly understood it. Instead, the GBC was to jointly manage all the affairs of Iskcon as they had done previously." So not that, only these 11 were in a special position. He writes, there was no special position given to these 11, either in the society as a whole or in relationship to their godbrothers. Now at present, I understand that these 11 gurus are, 1, adopting the title of Acharya, 2, sitting on high Vyasasans in front of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan and their own godbrothers, and 3, accepting worship and great respect normally reserved for the guru from the rest of their godbrothers, and 4, that the previous GBC zones have all been given by mutual agreement or by invitation, divided up amongst those so-called acharyas. So he goes on for 5 pages with objections, with the hope that he could help them understand what was the proper thing to do. The letter is written with great, like he wrote, concern, and he is hoping to set the matter straight and help them do the right thing. Well, the result of that was that the GBC not only ignored his advice, but they took away from him the service of finishing Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada had wanted him to finish the Bhagavatam, but the GBC, taking it on their own authority, told him he would not be able to do that. So these things continued like this in a, let's say, misdirected, not according to Vaishnava Siddhanta. So the GBC, through the years, several times, they have amended their initiation procedure. How they would do it, how new gurus would be accepted, the process that disciples would need to go through in order to be accepted, and so on. So this became, let's say, it developed that those godbrothers who wanted to initiate, take disciples, they should submit their name and there should be approval from the GBC. And I'm not sure of the dates there. All that information is available, but either they would get approval or else it came to at one point, if within 1 year of their application, there were not 3 objections to their petition to initiate, then they would be allowed to initiate in Iskcon. So this became known as the rubber stamp guru, that they would be approved by the GBC. That's some of the history of through the 80s. So, like I said, the initiation procedure had been changed several times. So let me fast forward to the most recent time. Okay, what's going on now? And recently I received what's called the Iskcon Seattle Initiation Guidelines and Forms. So for anyone who wanted to take initiation in Iskcon, particularly Seattle, which I assume is similar for everywhere else in Iskcon, this is a document 14 pages long. And this is published, the one I have is from 2019, 6 years ago. So what's the situation of the procedure for the disciple to go through now? From this document, the disciple has to make a number of vows, one of which is that he must not only take, but also pass what's called the Iskcon Disciple Course. Now, I've seen that Iskcon Disciple Course. It's not bad in itself. When I was initiated, also we had to take a test, but it was very minor, simple thing. Basically, who is Krishna? Who is Lord Chaitanya? Explain the parampara, some simple things like that. And this says, I don't remember it, as years ago that I've looked at it, but not only must the disciple take the course, but they must pass. And I've had a number of devotees who have told me that because they were challenging their GBC or their temple president in certain ways about their activities, one devotee who knew that their GBC was doing illegal activity and trying to correct that, even though he passed the test, he showed me his test, all of his answers were adequate, but he was not given a passing grade. So this has become a political tool by which to keep everybody in line. If you want initiation, don't open your mouth if you see something wrong. Okay? And this is very unfortunate, of course, because Srila Prabhupada never had such a requirement. And also in this Iskcon disciple course, it is emphasized numerous times, at least 5 times, that the devotee is becoming a disciple of Iskcon, not a disciple of his spiritual master, a disciple of Iskcon, in which the GBC, of course, as the ultimate managing authority, has the highest control. They supersede the instructions of the guru. And so the guru is also acting as you could say, officiating acharya on behalf of the GBC. In other words, they are allowing him to perform the initiations, and they are allowing the disciple to receive the initiation. I won't go into all of the details of this procedure, but basically there's a number of steps where approval is required from different personalities in the organization. And again, if somebody is not politically correct, they will not be approved. And I'll just mention one thing here. It says, the disciple, during the initiation ceremony, the candidate, besides taking an oath to the spiritual master's order as his or her life and soul, is required to make 2 oaths to the GBC. The first is to remain faithful to the order and teachings of Srila Prabhupada. Very good. But after it has been thoroughly drilled into them that Srila Prabhupada established the GBC as the ultimate managing authority of Iskcon. And the second requirement is second oath rather, is to remain faithful to Srila Prabhupada's order by maintaining loyalty to Iskcon and its ultimate managing authority, the GBC. So again, what we have here is the GBC are inserting themselves into the relationship between the guru and disciple. This is not Vaishnava Siddhanta. This is contrary to Vaishnava Siddhanta. Vaishnava Siddhanta says that the guru is the autocrat. He is independent of anybody else's control. Why? Because the guru is considered the transparent medium of the supersoul. The neophyte devotee cannot hear the supersoul. The spiritual master, who, if he's qualified, a bona fide spiritual master, by the way, this is one of the criteria for being bona fide, is in touch with the supersoul and is able to then transmit Krishna's instructions to the disciple. So if that's the case, how can anybody interfere with this? It's against the Vaishnava Siddhanta for any third party to insert themselves in the relationship between the disciple and the guru. So this is what this tells us, is that if we are being straightforward and truthful, is that the GBC have deviated from Vaishnava Siddhanta, and we could go so far as to say that those gurus who are initiating, they are also deviating. It's very unfortunate. Devotees, they read Srila Prabhupada's books, they come to Iskcon believing that this institution is the representative, it's the manifestation of what they are reading in Srila Prabhupada's books. They have placed their faith in Srila Prabhupada by reading his books. And so they come to the institution and they believe that what they are going to be told and instructed and guided is according to Vaishnava Siddhanta. But that's not the case. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj told me one time that there was a situation, he was in India, and some devotees came to him and they said, we've been reading Prabhupada's books for several years. We've started chanting 16 rounds, but we're bewildered about what happens when we go to the temple. And our question is, should we do what we read in Srila Prabhupada's books, or should we do what we are told in the temple? So, what does this mean? Where is the parampara? Why are the temples saying anything different than what was given to us by Srila Prabhupada? So in this way, they are showing themselves to be Apasiddhanta also. So the Ritviks, they do not have it correct. There is no scope in Vaishnava Siddhanta for post-humous Diksa. There is no pramana, nothing in scripture that says one can do that. So this is the situation in Iskcon and with the Ritviks. Now I would like to speak about what is the Vaishnava Siddhanta. And it's very simple. When the guru departs, the disciple, when qualified, may then accept disciples and carry on the parampara. This is how the parampara works, from spiritual master to disciple to disciple to disciple. It goes on like that. Now, some devotees, they will object that, okay, well, it says the spiritual master, he must be an Uttama Adhikari. And we don't see anybody who's Uttama Adhikari. So therefore, who do we go to for initiation? Well, let's consider that when our acharyas wrote those books and wrote that, at that time, if you wanted to take initiation, you had to go find a person. And of course, you want that person to be the highest caliber devotee possible. You want them to be an Uttama Adhikari, so that all the instructions that you receive are giving you all the information, all the guidance you need to make your life successful and serve Krishna, Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world. What do we have today? Now, while Srila Prabhupada's disciples may not be Uttama Adhikari, we do have all the instructions of the Uttama Adhikari, Srila Prabhupada, in his books. So Srila Prabhupada is present. He said, right? Everybody knows the quote, I will live forever in my books and you will utilize. So Srila Prabhupada's presence is there, but what else do we need? Okay, we need the help of a coach, someone to help us understand what Srila Prabhupada is doing, right? A teacher. So I like to use the word guru, the translation of the word guru, to simplify things. What's a guru? Teacher. He's the spiritual teacher. So we have the Uttama Adhikari, Srila Prabhupada, giving us all the information that we need to understand, to develop our relationship with Krishna, to enter into eternal pastimes, enter into his eternal pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan. But it's helpful if, like anything else in life, if we have guidance and a coach. So this is the regular guru. Srila Prabhupada is the acharya, and the others who are giving initiation now, they are the regular guru. So it's quite simple. It doesn't have to be complicated or complex. It does not have to go against Gaudiya Siddhanta. Okay. The disciple and the spiritual master, this is a personal relationship. And the disciple should find that person who, when they are speaking, their words enter into their heart and they want to hear more from them. There's a personal connection, and so this person can be accepted as guru. And this is also true even if we're talking about Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru. Basically, both of them the same. When we associate with other Vaishnavas who are helping us to understand Krishna consciousness, we go to those persons who are, we can tell from our heart, this is what I need to hear. This is fulfilling for me. So we look for that association, either in a Shiksha Guru or in a Diksha Guru. Shiksha Gurus can be many, of course, and there's so many helpers that help us understand Krishna consciousness. Beginning from the time we're very new devotees, the person who first introduces us, the Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, those who help us put on a dhoti or sari, they help us understand Krishna. There's so many gurus that we have. So we don't have to make it complicated. It's quite simple. Understanding Vaishnava philosophy. Be patient. My advice to young devotees who have not been initiated, of course, you want to be initiated, but don't be in a hurry. Understand what you were doing because you're entering into a relationship. For example, one second generation devotee told me one time that they were very disappointed with that they could not get any interaction with their guru. They would send them many emails and never get a reply. So I asked them, why did you choose that person as your spiritual master? And she said, well, it was always so exciting whenever he would come around. There was so much euphoria and it was really blissful and it was nice to be in his presence and hear from him. And so I wanted him to be my guru too. I wanted to be part of that group that was, so excited when he came around. Okay, well, what did you know that you needed from this guru-disciple relationship? It's like getting married, right? You don't marry anybody. You have some criteria. Who's going to be a good spouse? So what do you need from your guru? Do you need to hear from them, a letter from them once in 1 year, once in 6 months, once in 2 years, once in 5 years? Is that required, or is it simply enough to go wherever they show up in the world and to hear from them? What do you need from the relationship? And then you should look and see if you're going to be able to get that in that relationship. So in the example that I gave, this one devotee, she was unable to get a reply, a letter from a guru, even after years and years and years. Unfortunate, yes, but she didn't anticipate anything else. So please think about the kind of relationship that you want to have, what you need to have from that relationship, and then if any future potential initiating guru is going to be able to provide that for you. So these are very important considerations. Don't be in a hurry, take your time. And then finally, I'll say that there are a number of my God brothers and God sisters who are initiating independently of Iskcon, following the Vaishnava Siddhanta. And you can find them if you look around, or if you want some names, you can write to me and I'll point them out to you. Okay, we'll stop there. Any questions or comments at this point? See, there's one in the chat box.
Question concerns last two cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, because you told us that Srila Prabhupada wanted, if I'm not mistaken, Pradyumna Prabhu to finish all the two cantos, but the GBCs they didn't allow him to do that. So, and the question is, can I trust those two last cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, are there any deviations from our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy?
I participated in the work of publishing these last cantos of the Bhagavatam, 10th, 11th, and 12th, so 3 cantos. Prabhupada only finished up until, I believe it was chapter 15 in the Bhagavatam. So the way it worked, I was the production manager for the printing of those books. And so I knew the process very well. Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, who is a very humble, sincere devotee and very capable with Sanskrit, he would do the translation. He translated the verses, he translated the word for word. He would also translate the commentaries of the acharyas. All of that was then given to Hridayananda Maharaj, who would perhaps edit the translation, maybe not. Perhaps he would edit the word for word. But then what he did was take the what was given or spoken by the acharyas, written by the acharyas, and he would use that to synthesize his purport from. And this is basically often the way Srila Prabhupada did it. Now, we began that work with the 11th canto, and then the 12th canto, and then after that we went back to the 10th canto. And what you'll see is Hridayananda was very enthusiastic about this service. His purports in the 11th canto were quite long, not necessarily long, but they were his purports. And frankly, I enjoyed them. I liked his writing. I appreciated what he wrote. When it came around to the 10th canto, he practically did not give anything. He did not write anything from himself. If you read those purports, you will see Vishwanath Chakrabarti says this, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta says that. So he doesn't speak very much at all from himself. So many devotees, they think because these cantos were not translated by Srila Prabhupada that they're not going to read them, but they're very, very important. 11th canto of course, contains the Uddhava Gita, which is a wonderful section of the Bhagavatam. The 12th canto is about the future of Kali Yuga. And the 10th canto, of course, is Krishna. And we have the Krishna book that Srila Prabhupada did. And basically the story there from the Bhagavatam follows what we read in the Krishna book. So my opinion is you can trust the translation of those volumes.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm. Krishnamurti?
You told that the role about the role of nowadays guru or a regular guru as a coach. So, and you used the word spiritual teacher, but in other contexts you use the word spiritual master. So, yes. Could you kindly comment on this? What is really the role of a regular guru, a master or a teacher, or is there difference at all?
It's said in Shastra that one should accept the spiritual master as the representative of Krishna and the sum total of the demigods. Does that mean that the guru is the sum total of the demigods? These instructions are for the benefit of the disciple. If the disciple does not have complete faith in the spiritual master, it is difficult for him then to make progress. So faith is important. We understand, right, for the beginning of devotional service, right? Shraddha is there. We must have faith. Everything is based on faith. So one should not disrespect the spiritual master in any way. One should consider the spiritual master is representative of Krishna. So this is for the benefit of the disciple. If so this again is why I say one must enter into this relationship very carefully. They should hear from that person that they are thinking to take initiation from and see, their words, does it touch my heart? Does it fulfill me? Does it make me excited about Krishna consciousness? And then, of course, further understanding that we have many spiritual masters, not just that one. Now, the unfortunate situation is that a junior devotee, it's impossible for them to understand or be able to judge the qualifications of somebody who might be a spiritual master. Why? And Prabhupada gives so many examples of this, that for a person who's graduating from medical school, they are not judged by their peers, right? But rather there's a team of doctors who evaluate their capability and then award them the degree or not. So it has to, the junior person is always at a disadvantage in this way. Therefore, one should pray to Krishna, please help me find a proper spiritual master that will help get me back to Godhead. Oh, this is another point, very important point. Sometimes they ask, okay, can these disciples of Srila Prabhupada, are they going to be able to take me back to Godhead? Well, the answer to that question is that nobody's going to take you back to Godhead except yourself, right? The instructions are given by the spiritual master, and that's how he takes you back to Godhead. If you don't follow those instructions, you're not going there. It's only if you follow the instructions to the best of your ability and continue to do so. In the Brahma Samhita, at the very end, it says, self-realization is attained by slow degrees, by the method of constant endeavor for perfection, with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. So it takes time. It happens slowly, and we need all the help we can get along the way. So the point is, we get ourselves back to Godhead. It's not that we have to look for somebody who's going to, it's not like you get on the bus or, the good ship Iskcon and, you kick back and that's it. We're there. This is the idea of Christianity, right? Of Paul. You don't have to do anything, just believe. It doesn't work like that. Did I answer your question? Do you have a follow-up question then?
To some extent, Guruji, could you comment more in detail about this difference between teacher role and master role?
It's the same thing. And guru means teacher. Okay? Now, how do you approach your teacher? Master means somebody that you respect.
Not only respect, but you are totally obedient to the master.
Ideally. Ideally. Okay? In other words, it's like a parent, right? The parent only wants the best for the child. The spiritual master only wants the best for the disciple. But many times the parent or the spiritual master, they give instruction. That's what they can do. If they berate the child, oh, you're not doing good enough, you do this, it doesn't help. Right? You have to find a way to inspire them to want to make themselves better. So, master is the disciple should accept is teacher as a master, somebody who's given me instruction for my great benefit.
Thank you. I mean that it is not a simple task to be absolutely obedient to a person with whom you have not elaborate relationship.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And so, right, it's not that one cannot command respect. One must earn respect. And, this is why, again, we go back to the 80s, right? Those devotees who accepted those positions as acharyas, they were at most 11 years in Krishna consciousness. They were not in a position to take on such a role. I was, for myself personally, in 1978, I was shocked because my opinion was, what I was thinking was, there should be nothing. We should just put everything on hold, pause, and wait for our senior devotees to mature, to be able to handle that role. And so I was shocked. What are these, what are they doing? They're trying to step into Srila Prabhupada's shoes as acharya? To me, that was foolish.
It seems that spiritual master, unlikely regular material master, must be self-effulgent. And then
Well, this is what I say. So what's that mean, self-effulgent? This means, I was saying, when you hear that person, it touches your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You refer to me as Guruji. You're not my disciple, but you call me by this name. Why? For that same reason. Right?
Exactly.
Yes. So that's how it should be. So that's why I say, for the junior devotees, you go slow, understand what you're getting into. What does it mean for spiritual master? Don't be a starry-eyed neophyte. You see all the Guru Devs come around and it's so much bliss and, okay, yes, it's fun. It's wonderful. Pure, it's Krishna consciousness so much nicer than going to the club, right? It's wonderful. But know what you're doing. Understand a little bit before you enter into commitments. And, and I know devotees who didn't do that. Young devotees, they took initiation and later on they were extremely unhappy. And it became a problem in their spiritual life. So who's at fault here? Everyone. Okay. You can't say the disciples, not are free from any fault. They didn't know what they're doing. Oh, so that brings up another very important point. Honesty. Actually, all of these problems, beginning from 1977 and on, could have been avoided if everybody was simply honest with who they were and what their position was. But because they weren't, right? They pretended to be Mahabhagavats, acharyas, and there was a disaster. And why do they do that? Because the disciples, they want to have an Uttama Adhikari guru. So they're looking, they say, he's an Uttama Adhikari. And so the guru, he's thinking, I better play the role because I don't want to disappoint my disciples. But without honesty, you can't have spiritual life. It's a requirement. So that's all that's what I'm asking for here is honesty. That all God brothers and God sisters simply be honest with who you are at this point in time. And the disciples, prospective disciples, they should look for honesty from the part of their prospective guru, rather than looking for somebody who's going to pose, pretend that they're something that they're not. So honesty can go a long way to solving all of these problems. So, for us, who, take an initiation from Srila Prabhupada, we were so blessed. There was no confusion simply by reading his books, which were giving us information that was available nowhere else in the world. There is no question of Srila Prabhupada's authenticity and his caliber, his qualification. Not the same thing today.
Thank you for the beautiful lecture. And I saw a little video when I read when two disciples of Srila Prabhupada spoke. So if we give the books to people, they can't be returned to Godhead because they are not initiated by the Master. And Prabhupada heard this and said, if they read my books, they are already initiated.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell about this, please?
Yes.
Another small.
Well, let's do one at a time, okay? Yes, I met that devotee who asked Prabhupada that question. We've distributed so many books. How will these people be initiated? And Srila Prabhupada replied, by reading my books, they are initiated. Now, there's a difference here between that initiation, which means the word initiation means to begin, to initiate, to start. Okay, so they're beginning their spiritual life by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. However, the acharyas, if you read, like for example, Nectar Devotion from Rupa Goswami, the most important things in executing devotional service is to take initiation, one of those first 5 points. So that means formal initiation to be connected with the parampara. So I'll give you another example of this. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 15, text 108, Lord Chaitanya is saying in the verse that to go back to Godhead, there is no need for initiation. One must simply chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Okay, go back to Godhead. That's a big place, bigger than the material world. Where are you going to go there? Okay, if you get liberation to Vaikuntha, wonderful. That's a real success. But do you want to go to Goloka Vrindavan and to participate personally in pastime directly with the Supreme Lord? Then, for that, yes, we require initiation into the Vaishnava parampara, a parampara beginning from Krishna himself. Okay? How's that?
Yes, so beautifully said. So now I understand better. And so, for example, I don't like to be initiated by some of these Iskcon gurus because I know that esoterically when you sign something, it is it means something. So,
Yeah.
so yes, it is when you say your signature in something, you accept all these things, it is written, it is hidden, and this is a burden, and this is very dangerous. I understand this, and so I shall wait for something else. Do you think so that in these months or years to come that something will be cleared? Or just I share to pray Krishna to send me somebody?
Okay, if I understand your question, you ask, do I think in the years to come things will be cleared? I'm not sure what you mean by things.
Good and evil will be exposed, and real acharya will be available. Well, this is not a very nice word, but
Well, that may not happen in your lifetime. Certainly there will be more acharyas, but when they will come, we don't know. The fact of the matter is that there are those who are available now who can help us to make progress from where we are at now. And is there anybody present now that's a stature of Srila Prabhupada? Not that we have seen, but there are many, many qualified devotees. Of course, we're familiar only with Iskcon, and those personalities were connected with Iskcon or the Gaudiya Math. But there are others in India. So again, you know, how do you come in contact with this person? How are you going to find the person who's going to be suitable for you as your spiritual master? And for that, you want the help of Krishna. You pray. You prepare yourself to become a proper disciple. You have to know what you're getting into. And then you have some criteria by which you can make some judgment. And of course, there's now we have 100 gurus in Iskcon, or number, maybe more. And there's others, but how are you going to go around and test every one? That'll take you half a lifetime just to do that. So you need the help of Krishna in this regard. And you ask Krishna, to direct you. And you can ask others, those who you know, those who you respect in your yatra. You can ask them, what do they think? Who would they recommend? And that's generally how this is done, that we, through our friends, those who we respect, and find out who they respect, and then we begin looking there. So that's what I would recommend for that. Is that okay?
oh yes, thank you. You're wonderful. Thank you for your words of wisdom and this lecture. It's opened, well, I knew about some things, but it opened my eyes. Krishna, always is Krishna.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Saso, anything?
Well, I'm confused.
Yeah, no. I'm just listening.
Mogu ja prvo.
You were saying like, but what are the qualifications of a guru? So everything requires some qualifications. So even if somebody wants to be a regular guru, there has to be some qualifications.
Sure.
So what are they?
Yeah, if you study Prabhupada's books, you should know that. And this is important for disciples to know. Prabhupada gives 3 criteria for a bona fide spiritual master. Do you know what they are? I should find
Tell, let's see.
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay. One is that they must come in parampara, directly from Krishna. 2, they must have studied the Vedic literature and are able to convince others of the conclusions of the Vedas. And 3, they must be in contact with the Supersoul and able to speak on behalf of the Supersoul as the transparent medium.
So if somebody is in contact with the Supersoul, he must be Uttama or Madhyama, is my understanding.
If you listen to my lecture on my YouTube channel about japa, my japa class, I speak about this. And this we get from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells us who is in contact with the Supersoul, or how to come in contact with the Supersoul. Do you know?
So this is something supernatural, something transcendental you feel when you...
Well, that's what I said. You there must be some connection that person makes with you. If you're looking, who's that person who can be my guru? There must be some connection there, not just, okay, it's a nice party when he comes around. Should be more than that. Devapriya, did you have a question?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I thought you said something before.
Yeah. If we, so to speak, we ignore Iskcon, how would one become a guru?
I'm sorry, if we what?
If we, so to speak, we ignore Iskcon, no Iskcon, how would one become a guru?
Prabhupada, okay, what's the criteria? That,
For example, I want a guru, I have guru, but if I don't have it, I want a guru
yes.
who around me can become a guru. How can I know that he has that three
Well,
certification or how all this?
you can't really. Again, this is a matter of the heart, not the head. So you have to, better that you judge from your heart. By hearing, it touches your heart. Many times there's devotees will be speaking and this happened so many times with Prabhupada also. And we say, oh, it seems like he was speaking directly to me. And yes, well, this is happening by the agency of the supersoul, right? So, I mean, many times I'm speaking, things come out of my mouth that I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
Maybe that's Krishna. So it happens like that.
But what I want to ask you, you have a title of guru, and we can accept you as a guru. But if you have that title from Iskcon,
I have the what from Iskcon?
a title guru.
No, not at all.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
How you become a guru?
I'm
How
not
you become a
approved by
guru?
Iskcon, by the way.
Okay, but how you become a guru?
Well, Prabhupada said, on my order. On my order, you become guru. He becomes regular guru. Okay.
Great.
And I'll say the same thing that Prabhupada said. Yes, I have received the order from Srila Prabhupada, and I'll also say, like he said, that's my business, how that happened. So, if I say what that order was, some will accept, some won't. Okay, what's the point?
No, okay, that's okay. But for example, you will go on, and another guru who have that title go on. How we choose the guru in the future? Možeš, Saša, slobodno.
Okay. Kao što sam ja okay. I will speak in English. So the way I understood, she's asking, okay, you're here, you're a guru, and some others are also gurus. But when you are gone, how will we recognize who's a regular guru? Because you will be gone sometime. And then another person, and the persons will need initiation. So how can we recognize who is guru and who's not? It's again going back to qualifications, who's qualified.
Well, I think I've said this 3 times already, but it's a matter of the heart. You listen. I mean, even if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I want to accept you as a guru," I say, "Well, okay, we just can't. You don't just meet somebody and get married, right? You have to develop a relationship."
Yes.
So, you listen to my lectures. Do you like what I say in my lectures? Do you get to know me? Have you read my books? Do I what I say, does it sound like Srila Prabhupada? So, and then also, I want to get to know whoever I would give initiation to be able to understand how serious are they as a devotee. If they're not serious, then it is premature to accept them for initiation. So it's a matter of, it's a matter of the heart, and it's a matter of developing a relationship. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm not sure. But my part of brain who must think on English is sleeping. Ako bi mi Saša možda pomoglo da prevedeš na engleski.
Može, pa pitaj.
Idemo u budućnost.
Ok.
Možeš tako da prevedeš pomalo ako hoćeš.
Pa ne, ispričaj mi malo više pa onda prevedem.
Znači idemo sad u budućnost. Svi guruji koji sada postoje su napustili telo, otišli su već na svoje destinacije.
Da.
I sada imamo novog baktu koji treba gurua.
Da.
Znači guruji će biti samo oni koji daju lekcije, ako se nama svide njihove lekcije, mi ćemo njega izabrati za gurua, a šta je onda sa inicijacijom, da li on, odakle njemu, kako da kažem, dozvola da daje inicijaciju, da mene inicira ili da mi da drugu inicijaciju, ne znam, da li me bakte razumete šta pitam?
Da, to znači kad ovi guru odu, onda kad se neko pojavi daje lekcije, kako znaš da je on tvoj guru ili nije?
Do you mean, Mataji, excuse me, do you mean that somebody as a concilium of doctors, as Guruji mentioned today, should do their approval, or do you want to know what is the source of that approval to want to become a guru?
To je već odgovorio. Rekao je da trebaš moliti Krišnu i da se to osjeti sa srcem.
Znam, ali pazi, recimo imaš jedan, ajde neko nek prevodi guru da ne bude isključen.
Da,
imaš recimo osobu koja drži predavanje.
Okay, a to je osoba u budućnosti kad nema više...
Da, u budućnosti, znači idemo u budućnost. Osoba sedi, mi smo na lekciji, ona drži predavanje.
Da.
Možeš prevedeš guru da ne bude isključen.
Da, i onda te ta osoba inspirira i ti se pitaš da li je on guru ili ne, to je tvoje pitanje.
Ne, samo ti prevodi ovo što sam ti ja sad rekla. Znači idemo u budućnost.
Da, ok, prevešću. So, Danisha Maharaj, so the question is this. She's asking, Tatiana, she's asking. So, she's giving
I'm not asking, the other one, lady. I just got my answers, thank you.
Okay, the other lady is asking, sorry. So, I have to see who's asking. Kishori, ne, this is, ko ti pitaš, Deva Priya, jes, to si ti pitala?
Da, Deva Priya.
Okay, Deva Priya. So, Deva Priya is asking, the question was, all Prabhupada's disciples are here. Not all, but some.
Čekaj. Ajde, ja sad govorim, ti prevodiš. Može?
Pa ne, pa mogu prevesti što si rekla, ajde.
Ali kako se kaže to?
Ajde, ti kažiš. Rečenicu, ja to prevedem.
Nemoj postavljati umjesto mene pitanja. Znači, idemo sad u budućnost.
Okay. So the point is, some point in the future when no Prabhupada disciples are no longer present, either Iskcon or non-Iskcon, doesn't matter.
Znači, nema više, znači svi su, neko daje lekciju.
Somebody gives a lecture, so, and somebody is listening to this lecture and he needs a guru. So how can he choose his guru?
Ali pazi čemu je poenta, na primjer ti si inspirisan njegovom lekcijom. Želiš da će on bude guru, a on neće da bude guru, ona neće da bude guru.
Krišnu moli, on će ti reći i moraš piti, rekao je...
Ali ta osoba recimo neće mene da vodi. Ta osoba neće da prihvati ulogu gurua, neće da bude u fazonu da prihvati odgovornost za mene i kako će da mi da inicijaciju, ne znam da li me razumete.
To je puno sad to hipotetskih, mislim.
Pa nije hipotetski, dolaze nove bakte, stari guru odlaze, mislim, gde su novi guruji? Mi nemamo ni jednog novog gurua koji nije išla Prabhupadov učenik.
Is there a question here?
Yes, if I can in short, she thinks about the future when there will not be any more Srila Prabhupada's guru. And for example, when she listened to somebody's lecture, she likes it, and this person does not like her to be his disciple. So I said it is many hypotheses. Krishna will answer. Krishna will help.
The parampara goes on by the agency of Krishna. Okay, let's use again Srila Prabhupada as a perfect example. He did not have to come to the United States. He could have stayed in Vrindavan, and then what? Okay, but he was inspired by Krishna and his spiritual master to do this service of giving Krishna to the rest of the world. There will always be those devotees who are so filled with Krishna. They want to share it. They want to bring more and more people back to Godhead, to personal relationship with Radha and Krishna. This is the inspiration of devotional service. So Krishna will inspire them from the heart, or somehow or other, either internally or externally, and like that. So this is how the parampara always goes on. It's done by the agency of Krishna. How you will know them? Well, what's the future going to look like? It's impossible to say. But the saying is, and I don't know where this comes from. I don't know if this is in our Shastra, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. This is what the Mayavadis say. I don't know if that's from Vaishnava Siddhanta, but like that. Krishna's in our heart, and he knows, okay, this person, finally, they're looking at me, they want to know about me. They want to advance in spiritual life. So Krishna makes the arrangement by which everybody can do that. And he's especially very enthusiastic when somebody is actually sincere in wanting to know about genuine spiritual life. So he will make the arrangement.
So I have a question now. So you spoke about it's a matter of the heart, but many people get initiated from Prabhupada disciples, and many of Prabhupada disciples they're not qualified. We saw that in the past. So the zonal acharyas, 9 of 11, they fell down, so they were not qualified. Because if they were qualified, they wouldn't have fallen down, because Prabhupada said if somebody is Uttamadhikari, he cannot fall down. So my question is now this. How to distinguish? That's a very important question. So you get inspired in your heart, but how to distinguish between your feelings for somebody because he's a great person, so personality cult, and a genuine guru?
Well, again, the challenge here is that modern society, everybody's in their head, right? It's all a matter of logic and things that are going on up here. Very few. We have to learn how to act from the heart, and for many people, it's not easy. What does it mean? It means it's it's a feeling. It's not a decision, right? It's not a mental decision. This person sounds good, but it's a feeling from the heart. What more can I say than that? I don't know.
No, but my question is...
It is as well, excuse me,
Excuse me.
When we read Shastras, not everything we can understand. Something is a revelation, something is grace of Krishna. We can understand by our mind, but the rest is grace of Krishna, just it reveals to us.
No, I understand that, but there are three things here, as per my understanding. One thing is rational understanding, another thing is like new age feeling, and the third thing is something you understand on a deeper level. So there, you have to be able to distinguish what is coming from your heart, not just coming from your conditioning. Because
Let me give you an
feelings also come
example.
from conditioning.
Let me give you an example. When you first start reading Srila Prabhupada's books, of course, there's some mental activity going on, but what is moving you to want to progress or want to get more about Krishna consciousness? And Prabhupada writes that this is a taste. We get a taste from devotional service, and that hearing is tasting, right? We get a taste from that. And it's that taste that pulls us forward to want to have more. How's that?
Yeah. The first book I read was Life Comes from Life, and on the intellectual level, I was no, it's not intellectual level, but everything was right. It was right both ways, intellectual level and from the heart. It was right on both levels. It was not just one level, because I was a little bit upset when he was smashing the scientists so much, but he was right in all his statements. So couldn't object to that.
So this is what I mean. And you have to. Okay, it's taste. Okay, another word for taste is also rasa. All right, we get a taste from Krishna consciousness that we don't get from any kind of sense gratification in this world. Right? And it's that taste that pulls us forward. So, you can hear a lot of people speak and it doesn't really give you any taste, but some people it does. So you have to look. It's not that Krishna just put somebody on your doorstep here that he's going to deliver the guru with the mail tomorrow. You have to look around.
With Krishna, you never know.
When I was read, my first book was Bhagavad Gita, but I wasn't inspired and didn't understand very well things about Krishna. I was, for me inspiring was qualification of devotees, how they are not, Saša pomozi mi, kako nisu uznemireni u sreći i nesreći, pa onda silne one osobine koje opisuju baktama. To je nešto bilo meni inspirativno u smislu, ja bih htjela da budem takva osoba. Nisam ja baš nešto razumela Krišna, odnos s Krišnom i to, nego su mi se te osobine bakta svidjela, ja sam htjela da budem takva osoba.
Aha, okay. So she's saying, Devapriya is saying that the first book I read was Bhagavad Gita, and I was not really so much inspired by Bhagavad Gita. I also could not understand much. I also did not. I was not so much concerned with my relationship with Krishna, but I was very inspired when Krishna describes his devotees like he's equiposed. He's not in happiness and distress. He's still very stable in happiness and distress, and he's not moved in either direction. So that was what was inspired.
I druge one osobine koje se sve opisuju kad Krishna kaže onaj ko posjeduje te osobine ima pravo znanje, ima tamo ne znam.
So Krishna explains the Bhagavad Gita, the levels of the advanced in devotional service. So he explains about the characteristics of devotees. So I was inspired by those characteristics.
I want to be like that person.
And I wanted to become like that.
Very good. Okay. Anyway, there's something. It's not going to be the same thing for everybody. right? But there's something that's given us all some taste why we're all together here. Huh? We want more. We want more Krishna. That's our original consciousness that we're contacting. We're getting a little sample of that, and that's what's pulling us forward. So listen, we're going on 2 hours now. It's time for stopping. If you think of other questions you want to come, so you can bring them next time. Very good. So thank you all for coming today, participating. It was nice to have your association. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.